G'day team, welcome back to another episode. This little episode was something I recorded back in January. It was the last little chance of a weekend I got to go away before baby was due. And so, as you'll hear within the episode, I did get to go out, but pretty much it ended up being all about clearing up after the massive floods that they had up around Maryborough, Gympie area. And I really talk about a lot of the devastation, whatever that happened during that time. To be honest, it was crazy. Like, I think that's the easiest way to say it. This episode is actually pretty short, but it's worth having a listen to just to kind of hear about some of the stories as to what the water can do to the land. I don't know if I actually mentioned the landslides that you could see up on the mountains, but there's parts of the mountains that literally like 10 meters wide and 50 meters down, just land that's just slipped. It's just complete rubble. Trees that are just missing on these hillsides. Obviously they're piled up somewhere. But yeah, it was just kind of crazy to see that driving around, not to mention obviously all the roads and stuff that were down, but worth a little listen just because, just to see what Australia has to offer when it comes to a little bit of a flood or a little bit of a devastation causing, thing from Mother Nature, which I think if you live in Australia, you've probably witnessed, or definitely, I mean, just 3 years ago, we had the massive fires and pretty much most of Australia was on fire. And yet now we've got floods going on. Back in 2011, I lived in a house in Brisbane, in the middle of Brisbane, and we got flooded. It's pretty crazy to kind of see what Australia has to offer. A beautiful country, hey? But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this one. I hope you're feeling well. Hope 2022 is going awesome for you. And I hope to have you some more episodes as soon as possible. Thanks heaps, team.
Hey there, and welcome to Becoming a Bowhunter. I'm your host, Matty, and join me and our guests as we take the quality of meat back into our own hands. Searching the wild for free-ranged animals to harvest as ethically as we can. I interview a variety of specialists from the bow hunting community to help fast-track your journey as a bow hunter. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this chinwag on one of your favorite topics in the world, bow hunting. Yo, pure devastation. That's pretty much what I saw this weekend from what the floods have caused to my red block, which is my family's block. It was interesting. Yesterday we spoke to the neighbours, and he's been there since I think he said he took over in '68, and they had some floods in '74. And he said that each time they've had a flood, he's put a new picket into the ground to mark the level, like the watermark. And each time the floods have come, the watermark has been a little bit higher. And the last 10 years, they've had 3 floods, and each incrementally has been like a foot or two higher. This was 6 foot higher, pretty much, than what they had the last time they flooded, which I think was 2013, I think they'd said. So 6 foot is a ridiculous amount. A lot of the issue, so that was 6 foot on the block, on our family block, and essentially the big issue is that there was just so much water in such a little amount of time that it couldn't actually move out fast enough. So it pretty much just like backwashed up, and ended up filling up like a dam type of situation. So it put things like machinery under. It put whole sheds under where that had previously not been an issue before. But because the water couldn't get out, it pretty much just created a system where it just pulled up. And so pretty crazy to kind of go in and see that. I think the thing that was most hectic to see was parts of the creek that I've hunted pigs in for years now, pigs and deer in for years, and it was at max in parts like 8 meters wide in the base of the creek. Whereas now parts of that same creek, probably 25 to 30 meters wide. So like 3 to 4 times the amount of space in that creek bed now, just based on the amount of water and amount of erosion that's happened. So it's just absolutely crazy to see. Like, it's one of those things you can't really fathom that much. And I mean, even I'd take a photo, I'm like, it just doesn't do it justice. Like, it really just, you cannot kind of see it. You really need like the before and after photos. But the amount of, so that's obviously a big part of it. The amount of land mass has actually just moved. But what has happened is sand has kind of been moved from these creek beds up onto the flats. And parts of the fence, if you think about a fence line being, 4 or 5 foot high, maybe 4.5 foot high, there's parts of it where the fence line is completely under the sand. So you've got your poles that are just sticking up, and we're pretty sure the wires are still connected, but there's that much sand in place that it's literally like created a beach that sits over the top of where there used to be your fence poles, which is just so bizarre to see. And obviously it makes it very hard for kind of figuring out what to do with that fence line now, based on the fact that you've got pretty much 4 or 5 foot of sand just sitting there. So pretty much I got out to the block on Friday afternoon, and it was just straight into getting some work done. It was the first time that we're actually able to access the back part. So there was 3 creeks on their system on their block that had broken through their road. So essentially completely cleared it out, so you couldn't cross over. And so luckily the council had been out onto it straight away, as it's a through road to one of the neighbouring blocks. So it meant that council were out and just fixing that up, and they'd made like a temporary fix for it straight away. So, or as of Friday afternoon, which meant that they could actually finally go out and access the block. So we went out and checked on the cattle and stuff like that, and just mustered up a little bit that we could. But yeah, yesterday, or in the afternoon, when I kind of got there, they were all pretty wrecked already. They've pretty much had a week of just solid cleaning up. Like there's debris just everywhere. And so they packed in at 5:30. So I'm like, great, I've got an hour and a half of sunlight left. I'm going to jump on the bow and run up the hill. So I did that. So got up the hill, and I think I had about an hour of sunlight left. I thought it was going to be about 45, but I ended up getting about an hour out. And so I pretty much, the winds weren't great, but I'm just going to trek straight into the block, the part where I know the deer kind of hang out, where I've seen deer before. I've shot a deer there before. So I just trekked straight up into that space, and I got there, and it was very quiet. Quiet in the sense of not much movement or anything like that. There's cicadas buzzing about, which were pretty noisy. But we got there and just having a bit of a look around, and it was just like a peaceful start to it, I guess, kind of just looking out there, and it's that relieving feeling that you get when you get out on a hunt, really. It's the same sort of feeling you get when you paddle out the back of the waves when you're surfing. I feel, at least. It's just like okay, drop all worries. It's just nice to be out and be bow hunting. So got out there and standing on this hill, just looking over this little valley, and I see, and it's so green. It is so green right now, and I just see this little red rough patch down the ground. And I actually thought, at first, I thought it was just like a dirt patch or some leaves. I'm like, I should probably just quickly glass that, and I had a look. And I had to look at it for a little bit, and then eventually the head moved side to side, and it was sure enough a hind. So I'm like, great, we're on here. So I started making my way down the valley. The winds are kind of blowing across side to side, and so it was always going to be pretty sketchy getting down close to her. But I'm like, I've got no other real choice, and I'm running out of light. Like, every minute that I sit and think about it, it's just going to be worse. So I really rushed down quite fast for what it was, just taking step by step, and the grass is hip height, which makes it pretty tough for going quietly. And it makes it really tough to see anything on the hill whatsoever, because the grass it just covers straight over any of the logs or any of the rocks that are in place, any of the sticks that are in place. So walking down, every once in a while you'd place your foot, and if you place it a little bit too hard, or if you just were on the wrong step, essentially you'd just slip down the hill, or you'd crack a stick or, it was kind of just like a mystery each time you placed your new foot down. And so I was getting down. What I pretty much did was figure out exactly where she was based on the tops of trees. Because as soon as I was moving over to where I was going to move to use the tree coverage, meant that I was going to get pretty much nice and close to her. I should be able to take a shot from where I got to if I'd used that tree because it was going to be my block the whole way down. So I lined myself up and I was walking down towards this and had to kind of maneuver myself around shrubs and stuff on the way down. And I get right down to the tree that I need to be at and take a step, and it was one of the mystery steps that made a big... and at that point, I couldn't see her, but I knocked an arrow anyway, and I'm like, look, there's going to be something about... hopefully she's right there. Hopefully she hasn't really run off or anything like that. I haven't heard anything. I'm just going to see what happens. And so I've taken like the slightest little side shuffle, and that's where the branch unfortunately was again. To be honest, I was really excited. I think just to get up there and within such a short time get straight onto the deer, it's like, obviously it's where knowing your block kind of pays off a bit. And it's exciting, but at the same time I was a little bit too excited and I really rushed this part of the process. So taking that little side step put me right in her view. And it was enough confirmation, or the sound and then the movement was obviously enough confirmation for her to be like, nope, I'm out of here. So she up and just straight across the valley. I was like, oh, do I take a shot? Do I step out and take a shot straight away? Pretty much was the thought pattern. I'm like, you know what? You don't know. Like you don't know where she's sitting. You don't know how she's located. If she's moved before that. But yeah, pretty much I took the step out and she just up and ran, and she ran about 90 meters out and just sat there watching me for ages. She gave out one little honk and then that was it. So she wasn't really that spooked by me. But given that it's the time of year, and I thought it was a bit interesting. She's by herself, so I'm not really sure when they stop dropping their fawns. I don't really know exactly the whole process there. I feel like it's meant to be December when they drop all their fawns, but it was kind of, from what I've been explained to previously, it was kind of the same situation that they go and do to drop their fawns, is go into a quiet valley like that by themselves and hang out until they're ready to birth, and then they hang out with their fawn for a while. But yeah, get there and there was no fawn to be seen. But anyway, sorry, what I was getting at is that when she ran off and she was standing at the other side of the hill, I'm like, well, she already knows I'm here. I may as well just see what I can do. So I let off some fawn calls just to see if she would come running into it. And to be honest, she was not motherly at all. Or if she was, she didn't care about this fawn. So she pretty much just stood there and looked over. She didn't run off or anything too soon. It's not like she was scared of me. It's not like she was that intrigued by me either. It's just she just stood there. She's like, yeah, I don't have anything to worry about here. So just hanging at 90 meters, just kind of behind like a little bit of shrubbery. I still had complete view of vitals and head, but it was just like enough for her to feel obviously comfortable enough. But yeah, I was like, I'll give it a little fawn call and see if she runs across. Be ready for a shot if I get one. If not, then so be it. She's already been disturbed, so there's a fair chance she'll move on. And sure enough, within a few minutes, then she moved on. So that was pretty much my hunt, my one and only hunt that I got to get out for. When it came to yesterday, and just yesterday being the day that I was there for the main chunk, it was pretty much up at 4:30 and straight out into the paddocks and just trying to clean shit up. Like all the fences are covered in debris. Fences were down, so we had to make some new fence lines, just temporary ones for right now, just to make sure that the cattle can't get out. And that was just the starting point. Like really, there's so many fences that they need to make, but yeah, 8 kilometres worth they've pretty much estimated, which would be close on. So yeah, it meant that yesterday was pretty much a huge day, and it got to 6 o'clock and they started feeding up their cattle, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to jump up over the hill again. And pretty much the direction I could go was not that far. And this means I've got not even an hour to get up and back, or up into where I need to be. So I literally ran up the hill to start with, and after a big day of work on the farm, you're definitely a bit cooked. So it was fair to say I was pretty tired last night, but ran up into the hills, got up to where I needed to be, and pretty much I ran right back to the place where I was at the day before. So fair chance that we've censored it up. Plus, we're all down the bottom of that valley, like down the creek system during the day, checking it all out. So there's a fair chance there was just too much scent around and they just kind of bailed out, or that they were in just completely different point to where I was. So pretty much I ran up. There was no real sign, no real movement or anything like that. And by that stage, I was like, well, I've got no real other options but to pretty much go home because the light is gone or going. So that was pretty much it. That was my two. I would have been, maybe 2 hours of hunting, if even, over the whole weekend. But to be honest, it was one of those situations where I really just needed to help out my family, help out the farmer. Like I said, just to see that devastation across the land is crazy. So, one of those things. That was originally, this was meant to be a hunt weekend for me anyway. But unfortunately, some things got put on hold at Ridge, so I was going to go up to the Ridge group or up to Wild Country and do a proper hunt this weekend. It was kind of like my last yeehaw before baby's due. But yeah, just this kind of took priority, so I just had to help out where I could. So what that does mean is that my next hunt will pretty much be the rut. But I do have plans to do a few podcasts. I've got, hopefully, I'm just waiting on complete confirmation on another a bow recap for 2022. So just giving you a full rundown as to all the new bows, someone who's actually utilised all the bows and had a fair play with them, give us their opinion on them. And I've also got a few other guests that I've been trying to line up, so hopefully we can kind of get that all done. My goal is to get 2 podcasts out to you every month of this year. Now, that sounds all well and good right now. When baby 2 comes, it could be dictated slightly differently, but we'll just wait and see what happens. So, we'll see how we go. But I just wanted to quickly give you guys a little quick update. I know people do like these little quick hunt recaps. So I've actually got another hunt recap that I want to tell you guys about that I went on with some friends. And so I'm just unsure as to whether I bring them on and have a little podcast with them or if I just do it myself. I think either way, it's a pretty funny story. It's some pretty highs and lows to it. And But anyway, I hope you're all doing well. I hope 2022 has been off to a good start for you. I hope you've stayed away from all the floods and devastation that's getting about. Not to mention the devastation the fucking government is causing, but we'll see. I hope you're all well, and we'll listen, or hopefully you'll be listening soon. That wraps up this week's episode. Thank you so much for joining us, team. If you did have any topics, questions, or you wanted to suggest a guest for Becoming a Bowhunter, you can send me an email at matty@becomingabowhunter.com. If you are enjoying the show or you've enjoyed in particular episodes, please do me a solid and share it around with your friends. If you are not already, please hit the subscribe button, as the more subscribers we get, the higher the podcast gets ranked, and that definitely helps out for showing it to other individuals. If you are not already following me on Instagram, it's at becomingabowhunter.podcast, and on YouTube, it's Becoming a Bowhunter. Get out, team, fling some arrows, get that practice in, and walk those yards in the paddocks until you find those critters. That is it for now, but not the last time that you'll hear from Becoming a Bowhunter.